You know, you never showed him that photograph of her.
No, it wasn't necessary, and I thought it better not to.
You have a photograph of this girl?
Yes, I think you'd better look at it.
I don't see any particular reason why I should.
Probably not, but you'd better look at it.
Very well.
You recognise her.
No. Why should I?
Of course, she might have changed lately, but I can't believe she would have changed so much.
I don't understand you, Inspector.
You mean you don't choose to, Mrs. Burling?
I mean what I said.
You're not telling me the truth.
Beg your pardon.
Look here, I'm not going to have this, Inspector. You'll apologise at once.
Apologise for what? Doing my duty?
No, for being so offensive about it. I'm a public man.
Public men, Mr. Burling, have responsibilities as well as privileges.
Possibly. But you weren't asked to come here to talk to me about my responsibilities.
Let's hope not, though I'm beginning to wonder.
Does that mean anything, Sheila?
It means we've no excuse now for putting on airs, and that if we have any sense, we won't try. Father threw this girl out because she asked for decent wages. I went and pushed her father out, right out into the street, just because I was angry and she was pretty. Gerald set her up as his mistress and then dropped her when it suited him. And now you're pretending you don't recognise her from that photograph. I admit I don't know why you would, but I jolly well know you did in fact recognise her from the way you looked. And if you're not telling the truth, why should the inspector apologise? And can't you see, both of you, you're making it worse.
That was the door again.
Gerald must have come back.
Unless your son has just gone out.
I'll go see.
Burling, you're a prominent member of the Brumley Women's Charity Organisation, aren't you?
Go on, Mother, you might as well admit it. Yes, she is. Why?
It's an organisation to which women in distress can appeal in various forms. Isn't that so?
Yes. We've done a great deal of useful work in helping deserving cases.
There was a meeting of the interviewing committee 2 weeks ago.
I dare say there was.
You know very well there was, Mrs. Burling. You were in the chair.
And if I was, what business is it of yours?
Do you want me to tell you in plain words?
That must have been Eric.
Have you been up to his room?
Yes, and I've called out on both landings. It must have been Eric we heard go out then.
Silly boy. Where can he have gone to?
I can't imagine. But he was in one of his excitable, queer moods, and even though we don't need him here...
We do need him here. And if he's not back soon, I shall have to go and find him.
He's probably just gone to cool off. He'll be back soon.
I hope so.
And why should you hope so?
I'll explain why when you've answered my questions, Mrs. Burling.
Is there any reason why my wife should answer questions from you, Inspector?
Yes, a very good reason. You'll remember that Mr. Croft told us, quite truthfully, I believe, that he hadn't spoken or seen Eva Smith since last September. But Mrs. Burling spoke to her and saw her only 2 weeks ago.
Mother!
Is this true?
Yes, quite true.
She appealed to your organisation for help,
Yes,
not as Eva Smith.
no, nor as Daisy Renton.
As what, then?
First, she called herself Mrs. Burling.
Mrs. Burling?
Yes. I think it was simply a piece of gross impertinence, quite deliberate. And naturally, that was one of the things that prejudiced me against her case.
And I should think so. Damned impudence.
You admit being prejudiced against her case.
Yes.
Mother, she's just died a horrible death. Don't forget.
Well, I'm very sorry, but I think she only had herself to blame.
Was it owing to your influence as the most prominent member of the committee that the girl was refused help?
Possibly.
Was it, or was it not, your influence?
Yes, it was. I didn't like her manner. She impertinently made use of our name, though she pretended afterwards it just happened to be the first that she thought of. She had to admit it after I began questioning her, that she had no claim to that name, that she wasn't married, and that the story she told at first about a husband who deserted her was quite false. It didn't take me long to get the truth, or some of the truth, out of her.
Why did she want help?
You know very well why she wanted help.
No, I don't. I know why she needed help. But as I wasn't there, I don't know what she asked from your committee.
I don't think we need to discuss it.
You have no hope of not discussing it, Mrs. Burling.
If you think you can bring any pressure to bear upon me, Inspector, you're quite mistaken. Unlike the other three, I did nothing I'm ashamed of, or that won't bear investigation. The girl asked for assistance. We are asked to look carefully into the claims made upon us. I wasn't satisfied with this girl's claim. She seemed to me not to be a good case, and so I used my influence to have it refused. And in spite of what's happened to the girl since, I consider I did my duty. So if I prefer not to discuss it any further, you have no power to make me change my mind.
Yes, I have.
No, you haven't. Simply because I've done nothing wrong, and you know it.
I think you did something terribly wrong, and that you're going to spend the rest of your life regretting it. I wish you'd been with me tonight in the infirmary. You'd have seen...
No, please, not that again. I've imagined it enough already.
Then the next time you imagine it, just remember that this girl was going to have a child.
No, oh, horrible. How could she have wanted to kill herself?
Because she'd been turned out and turned down too many times. This was the end.
Mother, you must have known.
It was because she was going to have a child that she went for assistance to your mother's committee.
Look here, this wasn't Gerald Croft.
No, nothing to do with him.
Thank goodness for that. I don't know why I should care now.
And you've nothing further to tell me, eh?
I'll tell you what I told her. Go and look for the father of the child. It's his responsibility.
That doesn't make it any less yours. She came to you for help at a time when no woman could have needed it more. And not only refused it yourself, but saw to it that others refused it too. She was here alone, friendless, almost penniless, desperate. She needed not only money, but advice, sympathy, friendship. You've had children. You must have known what she was feeling. And you slammed the door in her face.
Mother, I think that was cruel and vile.
I must say, Sybil, that when this comes out at the inquest, it isn't going to do us much good. The press might easily take it up.
Oh, stop it, both of you. And please remember, before you start accusing me of anything again, that it wasn't I who had her turned out of her employment, which probably began it all. In the circumstances, I think I was justified. The girl had begun by telling us a pack of lies. Afterwards, when I got at the truth, I discovered that she knew who the father was. She was quite certain about that. And so I told her it was her business to make him responsible. If he refused to marry her, and in my opinion he ought to be compelled to, then he must at least support her.
And what did she reply to that?
Oh, a lot of silly nonsense.
What was it?
Whatever it was, I know it made me finally lose all patience with her. She was giving herself ridiculous airs. She was claiming elaborate, fine feelings and scruples that were simply absurd in a girl in her position.
Her position now is that she lies with a burnt out inside on a slab. And don't start yammering at me again, man. I'm losing all patience with you people. What did she say?
She said that the father was only a youngster, silly and wild and drinking too much. There couldn't be any question of marrying him, It would be wrong for them both. He had given her money, but she didn't want to take any more money from him.
Why didn't she want to take any more money from him?
All a lot of nonsense. I didn't believe a word of it.
I'm not asking you if you believed it. I want to know what she said. Why didn't she want to take any more money from this boy?
Oh, she had some fancy reason. As if a girl of that sort would ever refuse money.
I warn you, you're making it worse for yourself. What reason did she give for not taking the money?
Her story was that he'd said something one night when he was drunk that gave her the idea that it wasn't his money.
Where'd he got it from then?
He'd stolen it.
So she'd come to you for assistance because she didn't want to take stolen money?
That's the story she finally told after I'd refused to believe her original story, that she was a married woman who'd been deserted by her husband. I didn't see any reason to believe that one story should be any truer than the other. Therefore, you're quite wrong to suppose I shall regret what I did.
But if her story was true, if this boy had been giving her stolen money, then she came to you for help because she wanted to keep this youngster out of more trouble. Is that so?
Possibly. But it sounded ridiculous to me. So I was perfectly justified in advising my committee not to allow her to claim for assistance.
You're not even sorry now, when you know what happened to that girl.
I'm sorry she should have come to such a horrible end, but I accept no blame for it at all.
Who's to blame then?
First, the girl herself.
Letting father and me let her get chucked out of her jobs?
Secondly, I blame the young man who was the father of the child she was going to have. If, as she said, he didn't belong to that class and was some drunken young idler, then that's all the more reason why he shouldn't escape. He should be made an example of. If the girl's death is due to anybody, then it's due to him.
And if her story is true, that the boy was stealing money...
There's no point in assuming that.
What then? Suppose we do what then?
Then he'd be entirely responsible, because the girl wouldn't have come to us and have been refused assistance if it hadn't have been for him.
So he's the chief culprit now?
Certainly. And he ought to be dealt with very severely.
Mother, stop.
Be quiet, Sheila.
But don't you see?
You're behaving like a hysterical child tonight. And if you take some steps to find this young man and then make sure that he's compelled to confess in public his responsibility, instead of staying here asking quite unnecessary questions, then you really would be doing your duty.
Don't worry, Mrs. Burling. I will do my duty.
I'm glad to hear it.
No hushing up, eh? Make an example of the young man, eh? Public confession of responsibility, hmm?
Certainly. I consider it your duty. And now, no doubt, you'd like to say good night?
Not yet. I'm waiting.
Waiting for what?
To do my duty.
Now, Mother, don't you see?
But surely. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Look, Inspector, you're not trying to tell us that my boy is mixed up in this?
If he is, then we know what to do, don't we? Mrs. Burling has just told us.
My God! But look here.
I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
Mother, I begged you to stop.